All right, we've got a war in Israel. We have uh, college campus reactions, all sorts of protests, places shutting down all over the place. We've got Russell Brand praying rosaries. We've got bishops getting stabbed. We've got AI girlfriends, and then Taylor Swift blowing up the airstreams, the live streams. How do we make sense of all of this craziness? Dr. Bryan and I are going to break open how to look at all of these things from a Catholic perspective. How do we make sense of these things today in our brand new live pop-up show, which is yet nameless? We still don't have a name, so let us know what you think that should be. And it's also a call-in show. We're going to be taking calls. We'll post the number here in a minute, but towards the end of the show, we are going to open up the phone lines. That feels super official. And we're going to take your calls and get your response on what's going on here. Dr. Bryan, good morning.
Morning to you. I'm very excited. It's Monday, which is universally understood as the worst day of the week.
I think it's the best day of the week, honestly.
This is why we make good co-hosts, because we're very different people.
By the way, I thought you were going to say something about my live broadcast voice. You didn't feel like ripping me on that
But
today?
well, I noticed you put on a jacket. That's something. Last week you were in your underwear on our first show. So I was a little more formal. Now I'm dressing down. So we may meet at the middle at some point.
I don't think we need to actually.
We should come up with a dress code. We didn't talk about this as a potential topic today, but I was reading about the dress code for these furries. You know what a furry is? Do our guests know what a furry
I
is?
don't know what a furry is. What's a furry?
Oh boy. So I don't even think we have any space to open this up, but a furry is someone that dresses up in sort of like a cartoon animal outfit, like a mascot. They look like a mascot.
Like a onesie?
No, it's like
It's just a
like a literally
mascot.
like a mascot at a sporting event. And they dress up like an animal, they act like an animal, they identify as an animal. And I use that word purposely. It very quickly becomes um there's a sexual component to it.
Oh
It's
gosh,
a
like
whole kind of
cosplay stuff.
right, but it's a whole lifestyle. And there's an article in the news about these children
Oh yeah,
who are
somebody on chat just said, by the way, you could chat with us. You could jump on the platform. We're live streaming through all the different platforms here. So CG on YouTube just says a furry is a cosplay weirdo.
yes,
Okay,
yes,
but this is a family friendly show. I think my kids and my wife are actually listening right now. So
right,
let's
right.
we'll keep this PG.
We don't have a
Uh,
producer yet to moderate the chat. Anyway, the point of the quick version of the story is that there's a school where, in the name of tolerance, students were allowed to dress up as furries and act like furries because they identified as furries in the school. And then there was all these bullying going on and tension between non-furry regular students and the furry group. And the students protested and like walked out of school one day.
wow.
And it made national news. Matt Walsh commented on this, and then there was a fact checker that was saying there actually isn't a furry problem in the school, and then they had to fact check the fact checker. But anyway, the argument is like it goes against the dress code. So I was thinking about us and what we're wearing today. The actual argument is
This
not
is a
whether or not it's
this is a
psychologically
long,
healthy.
winding road, folks.
No, but
Get
the question
into
is not. It's not whether or not to dress up as whether it's psychologically healthy or what it means to dress up as a furry. It's, well, is it against the dress code? And so if it's violating the dress code, then sorry, you can't dress up in a mascot uniform.
Thank God for the dress code, saving the day there, saved by the bell.
Right. I mean, leave in the comments if you want us to talk more about furries for tomorrow's
I'm
episode.
pretty sure. Don't tell us in the comments.
Just comment on
Oh boy.
something. We want comments.
Yeah. By the way, yeah, some people are commenting. And this happened in the last show too. I think we're gonna have to put a disclaimer into the intro that we're not gonna get into diagnosis. We're not gonna help people with, sort of personal psychological areas of distress, things like that, because this is actually part of the ethics code of a psychologist. When you're public, doing something publicly outside of the context of a confidential kind of space, We have to be really careful to not talk about things that belong in a confidential and safe sort of personal space. So this is all public commentary here on the show. But let us know if you want us to talk about furries. Otherwise, what's going on? We got so Israel retaliates.
Yes, Israel retaliates. I mean, you know, I it's big news. The war in the Middle East is big news, and there's going to be a temptation to talk about it every day. In some sense, big picture, there's a small picture, there's going to be news developments every single day. But big picture, I want to think about how we can talk about this every day. And I think we have to talk about it from a psychological perspective because it turns out that's what we do for a living. Um, my encounter with people about the conflict is that people are scared. I think people are scared. I mean, people half joke about, oh, did you know that World War III started? And I guess my first question for you to lead the discussion is: are you frightened of the potential for the conflict in the Middle East escalating to the point where our lives are deeply affected, and maybe even this might be the beginning of some kind of a conflict on the world stage?
Being of a generation that's not had to deal with war at home or world war, it's not really top of mind for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think when I hear people are scared of dot dot dot,
Mm.
I just kind of interpret that as like people are going to be scared. People are scared like I think people are incrementally getting more scared by the year in
Yes.
general. And going back to like Y2K, it was like, and all this stuff. It's like what's the thing? What's the next thing on the list to hype up a bunch of anxiety about?
Right.
And then what's the next thing on the list to get crazy in the media about, to get clickbaity so that we're like paying attention to the headlines and constantly like just obsessed over the news.
Sure.
So I don't know. And maybe I'm too cavalier about the actual World War III possibilities, but it does feel a bit to me like another thing that's just the next thing on the list.
Yeah. I mean, studying history, this is how these world wars begin, right? It's small countries with small conflicts, and then countries back them, and it escalates and escalates. So we do have a
Yeah.
historical precedent for something small like this becoming larger. I mean, maybe the deterrent is what actually happened in those world wars. Nobody wants to get to that point again. That's no guarantee, right? Because we could have people that aren't the most emotionally stable, with their fingers on the button for the nukes. Um, but I'm reminded of a skit, I guess you'd call it a skit, or a take on war by Norm Macdonald. Do you know who Norm Macdonald is?
Oh yeah, of
Comedian.
course.
Yeah.
Weekend
And
Report. Didn't he do
yeah,
the Weekend Report?
he did, but I think he was lost on SNL. His stand up is hilarious. And I kind of share his sentiment that I think this was during the Iraq war. He was like, I'm not scared of Iraq. It's a small country on the other side of the world. It's very, very small. And I think something in me is like, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. It's a small country all the way over there. Norm Macdonald's point is like, there's one country I am scared of, Germany. They went to war with the entire world and almost won twice. You would think after the first time we would have been like, you're not allowed to be a country anymore. but,
Yeah.
but nope, they just took on everyone twice. I highly
Yeah.
recommend people go watch it. Obviously my delivery is not the same as Norm Macdonald's, but that's one part of it. Is it does feel like it's out of sight, out of mind, and those moments over the last in my adult life where I've paid attention to the news in terms of world conflicts, you can get really scared where you're reading the article, and then like it's time for lunch. Like life just kind of keeps going on in the United States
Yeah.
because we are an ocean removed. And I mean, I think that's a tremendous blessing. And then the other point would be like if they did attack America, like on our soil. I mean, the last time this ever happened, which was, I mean, really 20 years ago, 9/11, and that was a terrorist attack. And so we were on our soil, we were attacked by terrorists, and then we went to a war with an entirely different country by association. So
Right.
like we retaliate. So I wonder, I mean, not that we're geopolitical experts here, but if this reaches a level of nuclear conflict, if Iran was to send nukes to Israel and say they really decimate Israel, does the US come back and just wipe Iran off the face of the earth? Because I know like our military might, I believe, is still number one in the world.
by far.
Yeah. So like, are we actually threatened? And like, would we escalate theoretically? Would we be part of the escalation process to where we would just end this quickly? It's like when you're wrestling with your son, you know, and it's like kind of fun and it's kind of fair. And then like he might like hit you. But like when the moment you want to end the wrestling match, it's just like, it's like you can end it whenever
Yeah,
you
I
actually
mean, I
want.
think honestly, the problem here for us is that it's everything is getting filtered through what is politically advantageous for the current administration, and how are there going to be votes
Yeah.
kept in mind? Like all that, that's all they care about is just the next election. So it doesn't. It's like what move are they going to make? They could do that. They should do that, but are they going to do that? Definitely not. They're like slapping Israel's hand and
Right.
being like, "Oh yeah, make sure you don't get too crazy now. Don't overreact."
Without enforcing what you're backing
I
up
mean,
what they
I
say.
honestly I am actually worried about terrorism. Like terrorist attacks, that's a whole nother category.
It's
And
true.
we are letting in people through the border like nonstop, and all these people are coming into the country. We don't know who they are. All these like they're just setting up. It's like like I part of me, and we all have these parts, and we talk about this in psychology. We all have dark shadows, and
Mm.
we all have parts of us that can come up with some pretty crazy things. And I always think about like if I'm going into Manhattan, if I'm crossing the bridges in Manhattan, I'm always thinking about like how easy it is to just destroy the infrastructure of a major metropolitan area. And then it literally just happened in Maryland where the bridge was taken out. And I know there's conspiracy theories about it, so I'm not actually
Right.
saying anything about Maryland, but like all these people are infiltrating the country. Like anybody, literally any one of these terrorist organizations could be just sending in hundreds of thousands of
It
people
wouldn't.
whenever
Yeah.
they want.
Wouldn't take that much. We're a big country.
And then you just have a bunch of, people setting up explosives, all sorts of stuff, in key points. It's like that could literally happen any day.
Or cyber attacks, or viral biochemical viral
All this
attacks.
stuff.
That's
It's like, yeah, there's
yeah,
a lot of stuff to be worried about. I'm not necessarily really worried about World War III, and then
yeah,
like what's happening in Iran and Israel. Obviously, I feel horrible for the people that are suffering these terrible atrocities there.
yeah.
But when I'm thinking about my backyard, what's here and what am I
Mm.
actually going to have to worry about? Shutting down, shipping and what's delivered and what's available. And I mean, COVID threw us all for a crazy loop, but like terrorism could easily do all of that.
I know it's like the first time I've thought about not living in a like living on the East Coast or living on a coast. It's like, well, maybe I need to go move to a flyover state. If it goes down, are you gonna move to Idaho and like live off the land?
Right, exactly. It's like I did a talk out in Bismarck with University of Mary, and
Uh-huh.
I was talking to Monsignor Shea out there. He's like, if you guys lived out here, we
I
we
know.
could probably do a lot more. And it's just like Bismarck, North Dakota. That might be an option.
I know.
Here
Oh,
we
well,
come, Monsignor Shea.
I mean, I have friends and relationships with people in the middle of the country. But if I go, I'm like, all right, I will learn how to hunt and farm. I'll learn. I promise you, I will. But for a while, you just got to feed my family because I don't know what I'm doing. So if you've got like a freezer full of venison, like you got to keep us alive for like 6 months at least.
Yeah, Beth on YouTube just says, "Come to Montana." Montana's another great option. I
The
mean,
cold though, isn't it
elk,
cold in Montana?
bison, like forget venison. That's like nothing.
Yeah, yeah. But until I learn how to sit in a tree for like 4 days with a bow and arrow, it's gonna be a
Our
while.
friends moved out to Montana and or Wyoming, and they send pictures. They have like elk in their backyard, just like
It's
coming up to
crazy.
the house.
It's
Like you don't
crazy.
even have to sit in a tree for 4 days. They're just like in your yard.
It's like it's DoorDash or something. They just come right up to.
You guys have Grubhub here? No, we don't have Grubhub. We just have elk that just randomly come and visit. We just shoot them. Then we have food for a month.
Yeah. Well,
So
okay.
that's maybe that's the plan. I mean, we're gonna have the bug out plan. So when all this stuff hits the fan, we can head out west.
Yeah, but I mean, if we go dark though, and our phones don't work and we don't have GPS, like I don't even know if I have any old atlases to get us out there.
That's a whole nother. This is the other thing too. It's like that's a whole nother level of uh, upside down.
Hmm.
Like you can't imagine a scenario in which we go dark so that we don't even have GPS. And then, but it's like, well, I'm glad I ordered my 2 month survival kit off of Amazon and it's in my basement. It's like, that's not gonna do it.
No.
Like there's gonna be roving bands of criminals. Like it's gonna be like post-apocalyptic at that point.
The other thing too is like, I mean, at that point, I mean, what am I living for? It's like,
Or it's like yes, I mean, I would say we're still living, we're gonna still want to protect our kids and family. We're gonna get tribal
yes,
real quick. But it's
yes.
like you're gonna have an entire, my point is you're gonna have a whole different set of of ramifications and criteria. It's like a whole different system to navigate. Like nothing we can think about now is gonna apply to then. If our entire
Oh, right.
Wi-Fi network, cyber network,
Right.
electrical grid goes down.
It's a
Like
new
you're not
world.
prepping for that. There's nothing you can do to prep
No,
for that kind of upside down world.
no.
I
I
mean,
mean,
maybe
even,
getting yourself some artillery,
I
but
mean,
besides that,
but even gasoline, like gas stations won't work. There's no more cars. We're walking to Montana.
yeah, Montana's not
We're
even.
using the sun
Yeah,
to get us there.
we're gonna be like eating worms in the backyard, like digging for grubs. It's like 2 days in, we're like filled with dirt and hair's all disheveled. We're like, we're
I
gonna
wonder,
make it.
what are all the people that work from home? It would take them like a week to figure out that anything even happened. It's like, cable's out.
It'll definitely take me that. It'll be like, I don't even know what's going on.
Yeah. Well,
All right.
Linda Hicks in the chat. I know we're kind of like half engaging with the chat because we're talking. We're hoping to get callers later, but Linda brings up the topic of these college campuses and the protesting campus, which is something I wanted to talk about today. I mean, there's chaos on college campuses. I mean, we have Columbia University, where there are these protests that are bordering on riots. Hundreds of students have been arrested. The local rabbi at Columbia told the Jewish students to stay home. I've watched some of these videos of live feeds of the campus protests. They're frightening. Things are on fire. Students are screaming for revolution. You have the Muslim valedictorian at USC who was her speech was canceled. She's not allowed to talk at commencement. So you have people on both sides of the conflict. The campuses right now are in flames. You have told me even very recently that you love college campuses. You love them. You
I know
love
that's
being
pretty
on them.
messed up, isn't it?
You love
It's like
you love.
such a,
So how do you? So
I'm so
these
torn.
are these the college campuses you love? What do you? What's your take on the whole college
Oh
climate right
gosh.
now? The academic
So
climate.
hold that thought for 1 second. I just realized we didn't set up Instagram yet. We can live stream on Instagram, but we do have to move our we have to set up our cameras differently.
Okay.
So if you move, yeah, move that way, like move all the way over.
So it only takes this half of the camera.
Yeah, because it takes like that half and the other half and then squishes them together on a
Why wouldn't
vertical uh picture.
Why wouldn't it take the middle?
It just doesn't. I don't know.
I
We
gotta.
could bring up another topic another time about it.
That's a great topic. The problem with Instagram live feeds today.
So if you want to switch over, I'll go ahead and hit the go live on Instagram.
Well, the problem is I just like if I lean like this, it works for Instagram, but all the other feeds I just look like a slob.
Can you just move your chair over?
That's such a project.
That's
This is
It
a
doesn't
lazy boy
seem like
chair.
that should be a project. It seems
Oh
like
my
it should be on rollers. Like, does the chair not roll?
no. Who's leave a message in the comments if you have lazy boys that have rollers
What
underneath them.
kind of
That's
massive
weird.
installation of a chair do you have that you can't move it to your right
Do you know how cool
six
this chair
inches?
is? Everything moves on this chair. It's the greatest chair of all time.
I'm just telling you right now, on Instagram, it looks, I can't tell if we're where we're at here, but we're about to talk about my love-hate relationship with college campuses. We've been talking about the war in Israel. We're talking, if we have time, we're going to talk about Russell Brand praying the rosary, Bishop Mari getting stabbed in Australia, Taylor Swift's new album blowing up, and AI girlfriends. We're going to talk about that for the next half hour. We're not definitely going to not get all of those topics, so we'll do it again tomorrow, maybe. And then we're going to take calls, which we will post the phone number here in the comment section in just a few minutes at the top of the hour, end of the hour. I don't know. We're not radio people yet. What do they say at the top of the hour? That's at the beginning of the hour, right? At the end of the hour, we're going to take calls. You're ignoring me right now.
No, I'm trying to make
I'm
sense of
talking to
myself
you.
in the camera on Instagram. It still doesn't make sense. You're not even in the middle from what I'm looking at. Maybe that's just the desktop version. I don't know.
Anyway, I love the idea of college campuses. I love the actual experience of being on campus. I love academic buildings and libraries, and the the stage of human development when you are coming out of adolescence, you're like entering into adulthood. Your mind is open to new possibilities. You're discovering things for the first time. Like this is what John Paul II loved and he loved young adults, like taking them on hikes and exploring the world and understanding life through their lens and seeing things through their eyes, and love and vocation and work and enjoyment of nature and goodness. And so that's where I love campus life. That's what I want to be a part of. I
Yep.
think about the kind of environment I'd love my kids around.
Mm.
It's like to have like awesome, faithful, good-hearted, virtuous Catholic college students and young adults. Like those are the people that I want my kids to look up to and then want to become like.
Yeah, but there's like 2 colleges left that, that have
I
that.
know this is the problem. So So it's
Yeah.
like, all right, like let's bring our kids. Let's go visit Steubenville. Let's go visit Ave Maria. Let's go visit, and those are the two that I really know the best. But I know there's good people at Notre Dame. I know University
Chris-
of Dallas,
Right.
Christendom.
Well, I think it's about finding your people, finding your tribe within the larger universities. That's the only,
But that's
unless
it.
you're
And it's like,
good.
well, yeah, that's it. You have the Newman list, and that's a great place to look for college campuses that will be Catholic. But honestly, even like I did a talk at Princeton, and they have I think it's the Aquinas Institute, really really vibrant Catholic sort of subculture at
Yeah.
Princeton. And I know, and then Notre Dame has a bunch of them. I mean, Notre Dame is obviously Catholic in name anyway, but like real Catholic culture exists in a lot of places. So honestly, I even went to Princeton and I was hanging out there, and it's like I just love campus. I love the idea of academia and higher education, and developing our intellectual faculties and our human formation, maturing. It's just non-existent almost, and it's crazy right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the at the university level, the culture and the thought is overwhelmingly progressive at the highest level of academia. I had the benefit of watching a talk when I was in college by a psychologist, actually, who offered some reasons why academia and professors in academia are so liberal. And he
Why?
talked about, well, I mean, I don't remember all the details that he laid out, but the general spirit of the talk was that in order to be a professor, you have to be sort of an iconoclast. By that, it's someone who has to break from tradition to get to that point in your personality style. Because I mean, even, whether it's you're writing a dissertation, in order to write a dissertation, you have to disagree with people. You have
Mm.
to get into this small space to disagree with people. So you have to have this like be low on the oh, what's the scale? What's
Conscientious or
no, not conscientious. Uh Whatever the scale is where you get along with people. I can't think of the name for it right now. You have to be low on
agreeable?
that. Yeah, agreeableness, right? Agreeableness. So you have to be low on agreeableness to be successful. You have to be low on agreeableness because you have to have a type of thought in order to get paid and get a job. You have to be pushing things forward. You have to be progressive. You have to find a way to stand out.
Mm,
And there's so many few jobs in the country to be a professor. You have to be unattached to your family system and the tradition of your family life. So you have to be willing to move to nowhere USA to get a
yeah.
university position. So, and there were a few other reasons, but he said it's like the structure of academia itself is built for progressives. Like you have to be progressive to get a job there.
Yeah.
So I thought that was an interesting take.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. I think it, gosh, this came up with Peter Kraft as well. I was just interviewing him. I just talked about this the other day, actually, in our last pop-up show.
Yep.
But we can come up with a lot of things that make sense of why this is happening. But at the end of the day, like there's like this is actually like almost unimaginable. Like the level that things have gotten to are it's almost you can't even make sense of it. It's totally nonsensical. It's like Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
You like try to make sense of it, and there's like all the different commentary and all the different breakdowns and society analysis and like culture analysis and all this stuff. It's like, how do you get to this point? And all the
It's crazy.
sociologists, they have the answers, but it's like, this is just crazy.
Yeah. It's
I mean,
nuts.
the
And
level of the pro Hamas, like Gaza stuff, it's like all, and like they're shutting down highways.
it's young people too. It's who have short memories. I mean, 9/11 was not long ago. To me, 9/11 was in my adulthood. It's like something extra that happened. It wasn't part of my childhood. And it was 20 years ago. So if you're a college student now, say you're between 18 and 22, roughly, you don't remember that the entire United States became bonded and in some ways very unhealthy ways at points against like Islamic religion. And then it became clear over time that, we don't want to be hostile to Islamic religion, people who practice that. There are very good people out there who practice Islamic faith, but then it became more crystallized to um,
Like the
Islamic
jihadists.
extremism, right?
Yeah.
Terrorists, right? But that was the whole climate of the entire country, and that felt like it was yesterday. To have these protests on campuses now, it's like they could not have been alive. There's no way they would remember 9/11 and still hold the power of power of the conviction now for to be pro Hamas. It's crazy.
Yeah, I just don't know. I don't even know that it could even make sense of like whatever the issue is just to get to the point where we are today where like, where kids have this mentality that they deserve to shut down schools. Or, when it's not like it's like the kind of activism that belongs with an issue like civil rights. Like, okay, like if we're protesting against racism and discrimination,
Sure.
like be motivated, be sort of, activated to like go shut down stuff, like do sit-ins and like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But there's no reason in this anymore. It's just
Well,
it's such a crazy
well,
distortion of what is true.
yes. I mean, to try to enter into the headspace of these students, when you look at these rallies, I mean, it's at least, I mean, this might be culturally insensitive. I don't mean it to be, but at least in appearance, um, those who are protesting appear to be practicing Muslims. The
Well,
conflict is
maybe, but I
actually
think
involved
there's
is the conflict on the campuses themselves. I mean, of course there are other people that are swept up into it, but the essence of the conflict involves actual Jewish people and actual Muslims, and they're
that's
the ones.
part of it.
So it's not just. I mean, there is an emotional investment in it. They do feel connected to the issue itself. It isn't just like I feel the right to protest about something happening on the other side of the world. Me, this kind of like
I
privileged
mean,
white
I could be
person.
wrong. I could be totally ignorant, but I think there's a bunch of like the whole sort of like just a liberal culture like jumping into this. And it's a political thing, it's a cultural thing. It's like all the snowflakes, jumping in this to like virtue signal and get behind something that's like actually they're not Muslim. Like it actually has nothing to do with them. And they're like free Hamas or free Gaza. It's like they're not people that have any connection to this whatsoever.
Well, maybe there's a political overlay, but at least the visuals that I've encountered in terms of what's actually happening on the ground level on the campus itself, it seems like these are students that are deeply emotionally invested in the issues.
I don't have any problem at that. If like I get it. I don't agree with that position, but if you're Muslim and you have like some kind of connection to this and you feel like you want to go protest, like okay, fine. But that's
Well,
not what's happening. Like there's not an overwhelming majority of Muslim students at Columbia University that are like protesting and shutting down and creating a dangerous environment. It's like all these other people. Like somebody just somebody just commented on Facebook. Audrey says it's a bunch of entitled brats.
mm,
Sweeping generalization? I don't think so.
oh wow, wow, um, yeah, it's
The majority
complicated.
of the protesters are women. Uh yeah, so I mean I don't know. I think this has just become politicized.
Yeah, and we're not geopolitical experts; we're psychologists. But as I said, I think I said it in our first pop up. These issues are so intensely complex that it's very difficult to even take a position. I mean, terrorism is wrong, right? We agree with that. Terrorism and the killing of innocents, that's terrible. But in terms of like the retaliatory, reactive nature of this conflict, I mean, Hamas as a terrorist organization, that's not so great. Uh, but I mean, have the Palestinians on the Gaza Strip been marginalized and kicked off their lands? Or they have a point of view? They do. They have a point of view.
Oh, of course. And we even talked about this before, like even talking about decolonization in our country and like all this stuff. It's like there's points of view that we can listen to and we can understand. But that this is what I'm saying, that there's this bridge that seems to be not built between reason and the current cultural conversation. And it's
Yeah.
like, all right, we are just in a world, and it's like, all right, what's our job? Like, we have to make sense of this. We're Catholic psychologists. We're going to come up with the answer. And this is why I just keep referring back to this interview with Kraft, because I was like trying to ask him to help me understand what's going on, and I'm like, can you make sense of this? He's like, well, it goes back to the Garden of Eden. It's like, okay, I get nice answer, philosopher, but like besides that, Catholic philosopher,
Yeah.
like how did we get here today? Like what's actually, because like 50 years ago it
Yeah.
wasn't this crazy. And
Yeah.
he just looks at me and he goes, I don't know. It's like, and I felt so great. I was like, I thank you for like
Yeah.
releasing me from this, necessity to make sense of this right now.
Pressure I feel. I
I
mean,
feel pressure that,
if,
yeah,
if Peter
if
Kreeft
you
can't figure it out, yeah, what am I
exactly.
supposed to do? Yeah.
All right, well let's move on a little bit here.
Yeah. Well, this is the transition, I think, because I want to talk about Russell Brand. And before we get into Russell Brand himself, he posted as part of his show on Rumble, and then there was a clip on X where he was talking about Bishop Mari Emanuel, who is an Orthodox bishop who was stabbed in Australia. And I love this guy. I don't know if you've ever seen Bishop Mari Emanuel before, but he's a TikTok personality. But I mean, this dude is a solid Christian, and I love listening to him. Um, and he was stabbed by a 15-year-old boy. I don't understand if it was. I mean, I assume it's politically motivated. I don't know, but reported by the deputy sheriff after he's stabbed and bleeding. I think they took the actual visuals of the stabbing off the air. Now, at least in Australia, a judge ruled that it's not allowed. But I saw it before they took it down. It was awful to watch. It was really
oh,
graphic. He was like stabbed in the head, and
oh,
he's 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 in a he's in okay condition. His he's sustained the injuries or whatever it is. But the deputy sheriff, this as reported on CNN, reported that as he's bleeding and as he was stabbed, he says to the 15-year-old boy who has just attacked him, "May the Lord Jesus Christ save you."
oh wow.
I mean, that reminds me of like John Paul II getting shot and visiting the person who shot him in jail. Russell Brand's
That's
point,
another level. He's like, it's while he's getting shot.
right?
It's like, wow.
I mean, that's holiness, right? And and Russell Brand's point, his take on this was, this is what's going to end world war. this is the perspective that will
Mm,
end world war. This is what will facilitate peace. And I've always thought about how we get terrified of the cultural climate and what's happening in the world. But if you look back in history, it usually takes just one saint to change everything,
yeah.
like one martyr.
Yeah.
And it's moments like this when we're so scared and concerned about what's to happen, what's
Yeah.
going to happen, and about the way things are. And
Mm.
I mean, I talk to some people, not only are they scared of World War III, but they think this is Armageddon. Like our Lord's coming back in the clouds soon. And maybe he is, but I don't know. But people have thought that
I
all the
gotta
way
tell you,
back.
that's a great transition you just made there. That's a great connection. I was thinking, can you possibly transition the next segment into AI girlfriends and Taylor Swift? How are you going to wrap it all together?
Oh, I'm
But
going to.
put a pause on that for kudos to you for the transition.
Yeah, no, I think I just want
I
to talk on I want to talk to you about like what is your take on thinking about the interior life, first of all, of Bishop Mari Emanuel. Like in
well,
that moment,
somebody else just chatted too before. Anne on YouTube says that we're even just talking about Israel. She said Our Lady is the answer. The Muslims honor Our Lady. Mary is Jewish. She's the
yeah.
mother of Jesus in the church. She's the answer to all the craziness in the world. And somebody else had said, I think the attack was on the feast of Our Lady of the Rosary. Our Lady of
Oh,
Fatima has the answer. Pray the Rosary every day.
yeah.
So, and I thought we were going to talk about Russell Brand praying the Rosary because
We are. I
he
want to talk about
actually
that next.
started talking. I watched him do because I didn't see him talking about Bishop Murray, but um, there's something happening, like a little tiny speck of light starting to show up in this darkness,
Yeah.
and people have been saying, I mean, Catholics have been saying for decades, and we've been talking about Our Lady Fatima and the last 100 years and all this stuff with the Rosary. And then we even go back to like Lepanto and the Feast of Our Lady of the Rosary, and we talk about all these different things. John Paul II used to talk about, he used to pray his rosary every day. We talk about the rosary as the weapon. So
Yeah.
I I don't know if Bishop Murray has a devotion to Our Lady specifically. I would imagine he does, and I would imagine he prays the rosary, but it's like we cultivate an interior life to to build habit.
Mhm.
And we it's like, why do we fast? Why do we have daily disciplines? Why do we want to like live an ordered, disciplined life? It's like it's not because there's some value of like that Friday that we didn't eat meat, but it's because when we're up against the actual battle, when we're in the battle, when we're up against the enemy, what is our habituated response that comes from immersing ourselves in an interior disposition of peace and charity? And we let love become the environment of our interior life. And we have to work at that. It's daily reps. So when we're
Mhm.
praying the rosary every day, when we're meditating on the mysteries of the rosary, like this is a connection that I don't think is necessarily made enough. Like, why
It's
these
in our
mysteries?
psyche. It's in our psyche. So his reaction was one of extending love, Christ's love.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like how many decades have been meditated on of sitting at the foot of the cross with Christ crucified,
Who was
Christ
betrayed
being
and stabbed.
stabbed,
Yeah.
saying, "Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do."
Right. 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 Yeah.
Like psychologically, we have to put ourselves in that space over and over and over and over and over again. Pray it over again, pray it over again, repeat the words, repeat the meditation, repeat the mystery. And then literally, God willing, the hope is that if we're in a situation when maybe literally or figuratively we're being stabbed,
Right.
we can repeat those words.
Yeah.
And it comes from the heart in a way that's totally integrated and actually like we know how to feel because we watched the model of our humanity show us how to be perfectly human as we can be.
Yeah. I love that. And I love I love how you're highlighting that there is a psychological value in meditative prayer.
Yeah.
So because we could say, well, grace is efficacious, and he was in this case Bishop Mari was empowered by grace. He participated in grace. He participated in the Paschal mystery to extend love in some kind of supernatural spiritual way, which is true. But on a human level,
Yeah.
he just has immersed himself in the life of Christ. So
Yeah.
that it
And
was
like,
just like,
honestly, I like,
it,
go ahead.
I was going to say, in all that pain, he had the presence of mind,
Yeah.
fear, terror, pain, chaos. He's probably in shock, all that. Still, from somewhere deep inside, it
Yeah.
was, may the Lord Jesus Christ save you.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that we just acknowledge, I don't enjoy praying the rosary all the time.
Mm.
Like I think it's really hard actually. And honestly, like I did a workout this morning too, and I like was exercising and I'm like three-quarters of the way through the workout and I was like, I don't want to do I feel like I'm gonna throw up right now. Like I actually don't want to keep working out. And then I was like, I have to I just want to finish this. Like, why? Because like just do the reps.
Yeah.
It's not what I want to do. It's not what I feel like doing. When I'm praying the rosary, like we have sort of ups and downs of like when we're good about our routine for the rosary. We try to pray it every night with the kids. And then there's those nights that the schedule kind of goes sideways. And then, part of me is like, I'm not going to really like make this an issue tonight. That's like, we're just going to let it go and and then,
Right.
so I think it's just really helpful to have a reason other than, or a goal other than like, it's supposed to like feel good every time you're doing it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, there's another purpose for this.
Yeah.
And we're building that habit and we're immersing ourselves in an interior disposition for moments like this.
Yeah. And I think it's the witness of the bishop too. It's almost like the butterfly effect, right? Where that witness can resound outward. So this is what happened. Russell Brand is like, look what he did. And here we are being like, look at Russell Brand talk about what the bishop did. And
Yeah.
that's why like the power of what is good can spread, you know.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Russell himself because I mean I think it's been on this like on the periphery of Catholic and Christian consciousness
Yeah.
lately. And he's still a little new agey, right? He's like he talks about the rosary as if it's a chant. Like technically he's right, but
I
that's a
know.
word
I
borrowed
kind of
from
love
another
it though.
space.
I
Oh, I
gotta
love
say,
it.
I do love. I
You
kind
know
of
when
love it.
you ever watch a film where there's a part of you that's just like rooting for the bad guy a little bit, like because they're like, oh man, if only Darth Vader became a good guy, he's got so much power and strength, and like that's how I feel about Russell Brand. We're like, I'm just so entertained by him. I've always thought he's so engaging, and I have this part of me that's like, if he only used his powers for good, like this is why I
Yeah.
love conversion stories, and I think we're seeing it in real time, and like as I say, I think I'm like, I'm wondering, there's still a part of me that doesn't trust him. Like, is this a long con? Is he really becoming Catholic? But when he prays the rosary,
Yeah.
there's something in and of itself that's efficacious about saying the prayer, even if it's
I
a long con.
I don't know. I don't know if it's just because of my own prayer life and spirituality, or if it was really like something coming from Russell, or if it was something that's just like cultural or what it. But like when I was scrolling and then I saw him praying the rosary, that stopped the scroll. Like
Yep.
I just I couldn't like turn away.
I know.
And
He's
then I was like in
engaging.
tears. Like I was like choking up. And
Yeah.
then I was like, how like I couldn't get out of my mind thinking about, and this is a movie. So it's not Russell Brand. It's obviously like, but how can you separate like characters that he's played? But I was thinking about this movie, Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Mhm.
You ever
Yes.
see that movie?
I have seen that movie. Yes.
It's
Yes.
not a great movie, but
We're not
it's like
advocating
not
for it.
advocating going to, but it's like I can't not think about his character being like him in that movie. Like, and I'm like, this is the guy that's
Yeah.
now praying the rosary.
I know.
And
I
I'm like,
know.
this is like so beautiful. And how good is Our Lady? How amazing is Mary that she just loves us so much. And she's just like in it with us, like with her sons and daughters. Like she's with her children. We are her children.
Yeah.
And she's a mom just taking care of us.
Yeah, and I think we have to literally believe in the saving power of Christ, right? We have to believe that if he's who he says he is, then Russell Brand can be converted. It's like this porn star that had this. I don't know if you heard about this in the news. There was all these Christians that were debating back and forth about the authenticity of this porn star who converted to Christianity, and she's like
Oh, was she
hardcore,
a what's the thing
hardcore on fire.
called?
She's got red hair, like she has a very
What's the
like,
OnlyFans, right?
yeah, she's an OnlyFans person, right? But I think she did porn too. Maybe she was just OnlyFans, but still, she had this major conversion to Christianity, and you're seeing these different reactions by Christians, some of which reject her. They don't believe it. They keep highlighting her history and everything else, and other people are responding with, well, you don't believe in the power of Christ if you don't believe that she can actually be transformed and convert.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing applies to Russell Brand.
100%. Yeah. I was watching, it was Michael Knowles, I think, that was talking to her.
Yeah, I mean,
And
he got the interview, but there was a lead in up to that interview where people were talking about it quite a bit,
yeah,
because
it's
she's
great.
making the rounds. She's making the rounds.
Yeah. No, it's really profound, and it's like it's crazy. We have Tammy Peterson now. We have the miracle of her, praying the rosary and then her healing from her cancer. And we're talking about Russell, what's his name? Jordan Peterson all the time. Like,
His
can we
wife
get him to
converted.
convert?
Yeah,
When's he going to be Catholic? When's he going to own it? Like, take the leap. And yeah, we just have to see it like this is happening, and we just have to trust it's real. Like the grace is real and Christ is real.
they call it Christ pilled in Hollywood.
What?
There's like red pilled. They call it Christ pilled now.
Who
So
does?
like, like people are reacting to Hollywood celebrities converting. You have like
Wow.
Mark Wahlberg and I mean, there's a few others now that's like they're becoming more overt about their faith.
Rob
And
Schneider, I just saw from like that's like a year old, I think, but
oh, really?
Rob Schneider was talking about it. Yeah, with
Yeah,
and
they
actually he talked about Kevin
Christ.
James
Kevin
like
James is Catholic.
introducing
Yeah,
him. But like Kevin James and like Mark Wahlberg, they've been Catholic, but they're all kind of sleepers now they're just like owning it more and more where they can start talking about it more. And then you get people like Russell Brand, which is like as new age as you get. He's
yeah,
like in his like ashram, he's like sitting cross-legged. He's got like, prayer, whatever call them, like dream catchers and like prayer mandalas and like
I know.
he's got his beads. And then
Yeah,
he's like, let us chant now the rosary. I was like, is he gonna chant? And then he just starts saying the rosary. But there was
yeah,
like something so simple about it. It was so
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. It's great. All right, so I think we should probably let people know that very soon we're going to be taking calls. But
Actually, we should probably start that up because we're already at 11. We're already
you want
close
to
to
jump
the
into it?
top
You
of
don't
the
want to
hour.
talk about AI girlfriends? Maybe we'll
All right,
push that to
let's
tomorrow.
let's
So
start talking about AI girlfriends. But I
okay,
gotta set this thing up for taking in call-ins.
okay. So there's an article in the New York Post that predicts that the AI girlfriend industry will be a $1 billion industry, and the title of the article was "Comfort at the End of the Day."
Oh my
You're
gosh.
you're. I mean, I, on the one hand, it's fairly obvious why we have an issue with AI girlfriends, but it might be worth actually explaining why we have a problem with AI girlfriends. Not everybody. You tell me, what do you is what's wrong with that? Why can't people have AI girlfriends, Greg?
Are we supposed to find something to disagree on here?
No. Well,
Do you have any part of you that thinks that this should be okay, or any part of it is okay?
no. I don't think
Welcome,
any of it.
host. You are now in the host room and can manage your callers from the
Oh,
call-in
we
studio web
Setting
interface.
up the
we have to
call-ins here.
we have to find a way to mute that or replace it with some kind of like audio. I don't know,
There's got to be
overlay,
something. Doo, doo, doo. Call-ins are now activated.
something like
We should
that.
get an AI girlfriend to set it up for us and put it in.
Comfort at the end of your show.
All right, call-ins are getting set up here. We're gonna put the phone number here. It's I gotta find it. We'll put
All
it
right. Well,
right in here in the
while you're
chat.
doing it, the long and short of it is we don't want to objectify other people. That's what sort of sex outside of the sacramental marital embrace is. It's the objectification and using people. So the natural progression of that is to absolutely have no personhood at all through a relationship experience or a sexual experience. This is thus represented by the AI girlfriend. Comfort at the end of the day. It's like, how can I have an imagined other person that completely serves me and there's literally no tension? I guess my only take on it would be like, let's get into this headspace for a moment of someone who would want an AI girlfriend. So it's somebody that doesn't want any tension, want any difficulty, any challenge, just wants to be completely served sexually, emotionally by something that doesn't have any free will. There's no personhood whatsoever. And they don't have to deal with the risk of emotion, and they don't have to deal with the risk of what happens through sexual intimacy. It's just like, here's this imagined person. I can enter into a fantasy space where this imagined person meets all of my needs. Comfort at the end of the day, not a relationship at the end of the day, just comfort. And we know that relationships aren't always comfortable, don't we, Greg?
Yes, of course. And this is something that I think, this kind of it brings my mind to bad therapy and the therapeutic milieu, the environment that we're in right now, and like what everything is driving towards with AI in general. It's all about automation and, people. We were going to talk about this last week with Walmart closing down their check-in kiosks or their checkout kiosks to hire real people again. It's like the technology creates this temptation to simplify our lives to reduce relationships with other people.
Yes.
It's like, oh, life is going to get better if you have less messiness from relationships. And
Yes.
then, and we've seen these trends across the world, like in China and Asia, a lot of different places. There's already this like huge reduction in marriage, in in
Kids,
childbearing, like all
one or
these
two
things.
kids.
People aren't even dating anymore.
I know.
Like, and then I hear like Gary V is like talking about like, oh, this is such a good thing because like, people are living longer, so that means they have longer to figure out who they are. And so they don't start dating till they're 28 and they don't get married till they're in their 30s. It's like that's not a good thing.
No,
So
they're
AI
unhappy.
girlfriend, this is like the fullest expression I think of going all the way with this, but it matches with like therapeutic models where like yourself is all that matters. You can find everything you need within yourself.
Right.
And it's all about your truth and your flourishing and your happiness. And
Yeah.
maybe it includes other people, but for the most part, it's like that's too messy. That's gonna get messy, and we're not gonna, let's find a better way.
I know. And it calls to mind like actually what we do in our work at Catholic Psych. When our whole model is built on the premise that, well, if you are hurt in relationship, so if you accept that, then you are healed in relationship.
Yeah.
And any kind of modality for therapeutic change that focuses you entirely inward without you having to deal with the demands of a relationship is not going to help in the long term. You have to
Right.
be in relationship. We use the therapeutic relationship. I talk about how I feel in relation to my clients in order to help things change. It has to be a real, authentic healing through relationship, which is the vehicle for change. So the more we keep turning inward, the more we think that we are all that we need. It's like that kind of existential psychology, existential philosophy. The unhappier we become because we are built to be. There's the I thou, I in relation to the thou.
Yeah. 100%. We're not going to disagree on this. There's I think what we have to figure out how to do is how do we how do we move forward? How do we promote and evangelize and teach people the importance of having messy relationships, of being in relationship, of like rejecting culture
They're hard.
that is inundated with selfishness.
I think it's to help people see the value in doing difficult things at a base level. It's it there that we've lost that. There's a whole generation of people that want to pursue ease of life, hedonistic ease of life, and it makes you unhappy.
I think it's really important to be like, yes, I like we have faithful married life, we have kids, we have like, and we're like unbelievably happy. Like I can speak for you, I can speak for me. I know you and me are unbelievably happy.
Mm.
And also we have messiness and it's also very difficult at times.
Oh, I'm coming off a 2 day fight with my wife.
But
A
2 days.
two-day fight. Yep. It was a doozy.
How- And it's like, yeah, like of course things get messy and like
Yep.
we're like constantly figuring this stuff out, but like it's so worth it. It's like worth every
Oh yeah.
second of it.
Yeah.
All right, we have a caller. We
We have
have Jack from it looks like New Jersey. Let's Should we invite? I don't actually know what he wants to talk about. Should we just pull him in anyway?
Yeah, we're going raw.
Let's see if he's still with us. Jack, are you there?
Hi guys, first time caller, long time listener.
Uh,
Happy to be here with you guys.
Wait, never mind, not New Jersey.
I
Welcome, Jack.
wanted to talk about AI. Can I talk about AI with you?
Sure.
yeah.
So there was a story that came out about from Goldman Sachs today about how Goldman Sachs wants philosophy majors. They don't want technical majors anymore. They want philosophy majors because, quote, they want people who can think. And AI, and part of it is because like they have AI that can now do all the technology, and what they don't have is human beings who are able to like discern what is true, what is good, what is actually useful. And so like AI is actually clarifying one of the deep flaws of modern education is that we're outputting people who don't know how to think critically. And I feel the same way about AI girlfriends. Because like AI girlfriends
You have
at
to
the end of
connect
the
those
day,
dots. You're gonna have to explain yourself.
well, I know I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there. It does the exact same thing. It does the exact same thing to me. Like AI girlfriend, it gets to the core of what you're really looking for, which is at the end of the day, knowing that someone is choosing you despite all your mess. And I feel like it'll clarify the same thing. Like, I don't want it to happen, but I do think that people very quickly will be like, well, shoot, this hole is just massively bigger. And I think AI just clarifies stuff in that way. I don't know. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, I think, eventually when we practice behaviors that fall outside of the teachings of the church, those like things eventually implode on themselves. Like maybe it may take a generation or two, but I think you're alluding to the dissatisfaction that will inevitably come as a result of having an AI girlfriend. Just like the dissatisfaction and the loneliness and the gaping hole that comes as a result of pornography use long term, right? And I mean, there was a time I remember when I was growing up where divorce was fine. That was the cultural message when I was a kid. You can have a good divorce, not a big deal. Everything's cool. You can have a happy divorce, kids will be fine. That was the cultural message. Now, I think nowadays we've come to realize people don't want to get divorced. It's pretty awful. But nobody's going to come back and say, "Oh, the church was right." They'll just kind of course correct at a cultural level. I think you're right. I think um, the hole that's present in the behavior itself or in the choice itself does bear out. It just takes a while.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm as hopeful about humanity and the process here of filtering through. It's also like with Goldman Sachs or with like business or corporate, it's like there's profit and profit kind of leads the conversation, and then they can figure out what's going to be more profitable or not. So if there's a glitch in the system, I think it's easier to figure out like, all right, what's the human input that is weak, that is lessening our profits. And like if you see this is what happened with all the woke stuff, right? As soon as Budweiser like almost got basically dissolved as a corporation or whatever, it's like after that Mulvaney stuff, it was like everybody's like, uh-oh, we better reverse course here. Meanwhile, college campuses are still, having all this craziness happen and everywhere else. So I don't know. I'd like to hope. I think after a few generations, things will pan out, maybe, but we'll see.
Yeah, I know. I interviewed a few people for the CatholicPsych Show who are professors, and they basically pushed themselves towards retirement. They retired early because there was just less students involved in the liberal arts, and everyone was being pushed towards professions that are more technical in nature, or yeah, they just got away from the humanities.
Yeah.
When I was going through my undergraduate, there were like 500 history majors. When at the time of my conversations, there were like 80. I mean, that's a pretty significant difference over like 15, 20 years.
Let's see. We got a
So
new we got a new caller here jumping in here. Let me
okay,
see.
cool.
Can you hear us?
Hi, yeah.
Who's this?
Uh, Hi, this is Kev.
How's it going? What's your thought or question for today?
I guess just a general thought, that's more of a systematic question. You guys talked about, it just seems like talking about evangelization, but I think I think about the Grand Inquisitor scene by Dostoevsky a lot, where he says to Jesus that like he laid the destruction of his own kingdom. I'm Catholic. I will happily say that, but I have a friend who similarly sees a decline in Western culture, but will refuse to, as he says, like go back to like old religions. And it's just like people just don't believe this stuff anymore. And I don't know how I do not know how you get people to believe in it.
So are you asking like on a large scale level? Like how can we culturally
Yeah.
evangelize like many people at once?
I,
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, you know, what I've discovered is that evangelization happens at the individual level, and I think shows like this or books or anything like that. I mean, ultimately become resources for people who are, I mean, either already there or are closer to getting there. But the experience of being loved in a personal relationship that utilizes resources like this, like I think that's what creates lasting change. It happens at an individual level. It happens in relationship.
Yeah, and I think also the question here too is just kind of looking at this reality that we're coming in a culture where there's this reaction against patriarchy, this reaction against the sort of top-down tradition, and this is the way it's always been done, and these are the sort of institutions of religion. And honestly, I think there's a really important place for listening and acknowledging and meeting people where they're at in that. It's like, yeah, actually, religion has done a lot of harm
Yeah.
as an institution. And it's like, all right, does God want us to come close to him only through this like paradigm that, happened to be the structure for a certain number of centuries? Well, no. And actually the paradigm that Christ entered into, he was actually pretty anti establishment, and he had a lot of things to say about the institution of religion when he entered into the world. So we have to be really careful because we're not saying that religion is wrong. We're not saying that the institution is wrong, but I think there's a real value to acknowledging the imperfections of human institutions in general, and realizing like, yeah, there's a reason for those reactions. There's a reason for Dostoevsky. There's a reason for a culture who doesn't know Dostoevsky anymore. And there's a reason for being able to, enter into say, okay, well, Christ is past, present, and future, yesterday, today, and forever. How does Christ meet your friend today? And how does Christ meet me and you today? How does Christ meet anybody that we have that individual conversation with today? And, it might be through an acknowledgement of, yeah, these things don't work, but the timeless truths are still true. And we will find ourselves in a place that we want to fit into a community of believers. And that's at the heart of every human.
Yeah. Oh, I want to add
Can I ask you one brief question, Dr. Bottaro?
Sure.
Unrelated. I really like the logo that you use. They like a lotus flower and the doves.
Oh, from the Mindful
Would you ever
Catholic?
sell like, yeah? Would you ever sell like an enamel pin of that?
That was designed by Dynamic Catholic, so you'll have to direct that question to them.
Dynamic Catholic. Good to know. Thank you. Thank
All
you for
right,
your
God
time.
bless you. Thanks for the call. Take care.
Yeah. I want to add one more thought on that point though. You know, I I think it's fair to critique patriarchy, right? If there are toxic elements to patriarchy and ways in which people are oppressed via patriarchy, I think that's legitimate. But I also think people still long for fathers. Maybe they have a problem with patriarchy, but they long
Oh,
for
yeah.
fathers. And we
Yeah.
have to deliver a healthy version of what people aren't getting. And I mean that you see this longing for fathers that in love for people like Jordan Peterson, in love for people like Andrew Tate, who takes a
Right.
hyper-masculine, toxic approach. Jordan Peterson or Joe Rogan. I mean, people are looking for dads. So as much as we want to say patriarchy is bad and let's like tear down any concepts of masculinity, it just doesn't work.
No, and I don't
we're
want to say patriarchy is bad either, but
Sure.
definitely not. But I'm just saying, yeah, entering the conversation to acknowledge that there's a reason why people are saying that is a good place to start.
Yeah.
And then we want to tell them why they're wrong.
Well, I don't. Maybe you do. I want to say you have a point, and there are certain areas that are problematic. However, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater.
No,
That's
I'm
my
fine.
response.
I'm fine to just tell people they're wrong. That's just the way it is. But
that's why we have a show.
Yeah. Well, I think we're gonna have to wrap it up here for today. But appreciate everybody listening, and we didn't get to Taylor Swift, unfortunately. But maybe we'll talk about that next time.
Sorry, Taylor. We actually had her coming on the show today, but she got bumped because we had more important things to talk about.
She's waiting in the back in the waiting room on online in the queue. But
sorry, Taylor.
Next
We'll
time.
try to get you next time.
All right. God bless you all. See you later.
See ya.